Hey everyone, what's going on? It's Bobby here, and today I wanted to share with you some data visualizations I decided to create based off some interesting data I came across that I wanted to do some research on. So, what this is at least the data, is the Airbnb listings, including all Airbnb listings in New York City, the 5 boroughs, in 2019. Now, real quickly, for reference, this was made using IBM Cognos Analytics 11.1 Release 5. So anytime you mention geographic location, I, of course, wanted to use some maps to help visualize what we're looking at. So in the top left, you can see this is New York City by nightly price range. So what this is going to do is, based on the color intensity scale right here, you'll see all the listings and their average per night prices by the US dollar. Now, keep in mind there are a lot of locations, just because there are a lot of listings, of course, and that's why we do have some filters I will get into. I'll show you shortly. Now, on the map on the right, these are the same listings. However, this is by number of reviews. So part of what I wanted to do for these visualizations is research and see if, is there any associations or correlations between the prices that are being charged or advertised for these listings and how reputable these listings are on being listed on Airbnb, of course. So this chart is by number of reviews. Now, let's go on to these other visualizations. To the bottom right here, we have a scatter plot, which I felt would be a good representation to see some relationships and insights we could gain. This one shows the night minimum that you must book for a listing that it requires. And on the y-axis, it's the price per night of the listing. So I wanted to see if there's any correlations between those two. Now, keep in mind, there are some ridiculous outliers that we'll have to sort through to gain better data, because right now everything's kind of tucked away in the bottom left. So, of course, you have one listing for 10,000. That's ridiculous, at least for most of us. And there's a listing also with a 1,250 night minimum. We will get in some filters shortly. Let's get into the other charts first. I wanted to just introduce what's going on here. Another scatter plot. This one actually is price per night on the bottom, on the x-axis, and on the y-axis I decided to show number of reviews. And of course, on these two scatter plots, you can see the colors differ based on what borough these listings are located in. In the bottom here, we have a driver chart. This is actually one of my favorite charts or visualizations that I like to show. And it helps determine what's determining the target metric that we're trying to look into. So, of course, what is driving the listings price per night? I wanted to see what was being determined there. And, of course, you can see, for example, the combination of room type, neighborhood, days available out of the 365 days of the year, and night minimum is a predictor of price per night. So that's an interesting thing to pay attention to. Now, we'll get into these quick little column bar graphs. These are pretty self-explanatory. These are the average listing price per night by the borough. So these are based on whatever you're filtering upon, you can see the numbers. So in Manhattan, in general, based on all the listings, a $197 per night average, which of course is the most expensive of any borough. But I think for many of us, that's not too much of a surprise, because Manhattan's one of the most expensive places to live in the whole country. And now down below, we have average number of reviews by borough. So you can see how many on average reviews a listing has total. Interesting, actually, Manhattan actually has the least. The most is close, but it goes to Queens. Now let's say, okay, that's cool. We have a lot of data here. It's kind of commingled. So let's say we wanted to narrow it down a bit. Let's sort by a room type. Let's look at just listings that include an entire home or apartment to rent. Give that a moment. You can see it actually does narrow it down quite a bit, but we're going to get a little more narrow. Let's filter by a borough. Let's try Queens. We'll further with that. That's going to narrow it down quite a bit itself. And you can actually see these scatter plots are narrowed down quite a bit. And let's even go down to a neighborhood. Now let's go down and check out Flushing, Queens, for example. Where's Flushing? Cool. For you baseball fans such as myself, Flushing is Citi Field, where it's actually where the New York Mets play, which is part of the reason why I did want to do some research on this specific little region. You can see the map here on the listings. You can see in Queens, the average listing per night based on these filters. So in Flushing, entire homes or apartments to rent is $175 average. Average reviews that's pretty reputable actually, 2.35 reviews. And you can see here, price per night by number of reviews. Quite a bit in this range. So the fair priced range, I would say. And not too many reviews, but it is cheaper. So that kind of shows, okay, well, maybe that's what the majority of people on Airbnb are looking for in terms of a place to find on Airbnb, at least in this region. You can see the night minimum average price per night graph. Not too much data to gather based on this region, but still an interesting thing to look at. And based on our filters here for this driver analysis, we can see that calculated host listings count and number of reviews is a predictor of price per night. Pretty strong, 53%. Very interesting thing to look at. And of course, if we mess around with more filters, you can see even more data to look at and gain some more insights on. So with that, that's going to conclude this presentation. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.